Hey, my beautiful people of my Tuesday morning vibe, you are here for ASADAH Says. I chose to come on in. I don't want no sound because I'm bringing in good energy and good sounds in a minute. But first, before we move forward, guess what I got to do? Some of y'all don't even know what the female solution is, but you're going to know now. The female solution is the platform that I'm on for the ASADAH Says podcast. So if you don't know, now you know. Don't go nowhere. Check it out. We'll be right back.
Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the female solution.
I love it. Okay, so here's the deal. This is the last show of our Love Don't Hurt series, looking at the beating of our children, pain, abuse, all of that. April is actually Child Abuse Awareness Month and all of that. So I felt like I wanted to open up the show with a sound, something we need to do. I want you to listen. Only going to be a little bit, but check it out. Hold on, y'all. We going to go all the way back, all the way back. Hold on. Check it. Ready? Let the air flow in and out it goes. Let the air flow in and out it goes. Breathe with me. Easy and free, slower still. Feel the air, just breathe, just breathe. Ooh, go ahead, y'all. Come on, just breathe. Come on, just breathe. So anyway, that's what we need to do. We need to just breathe, handle ourselves, and really do a better job. So I'm going to bring on number one, some good sisters this morning. I got to bring in my co-host. She's been rocking with me this whole month, rocking with the Love Don't Hurt theme, dealing with trauma. My girl, Alicia Perry, come on to the stage. Hi, Mama. How are you?
Doing ASADAH, my sister.
I'm so glad to have you. You've been great. You guys, Alicia is a certified trauma specialist, helping our brothers and sisters out there who, they got backgrounds where even as sex offenders, they need healing, right? And so you've been in this space to help me articulate that healing, right? And what we need to do. You got me saying, right? I love that you do that. So, yeah. So today, me and Alicia are going to be talking to someone y'all know. Oh, she's actually the CEO of the Female Solution, but she's also an author. I'm bringing NAIMAH LATIF to the table. Hey, NAIMAH.
Hey, I have arrived. I'm on ASADAH Says.
Oh, that's funny. That's so funny. If y'all don't know, NAIMAH is actually an author of a book, and look, it is called Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma. And this is just very important today that you're here, NAIMAH, because people like to use us as poster children for beating kids.
Mm-hmm.
I got it. But guess what? Guess where it came from somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that somewhere people like to say, well, no, they were doing whatever in Africa. They had slaves in Africa. Nah, shadow slavery, stop playing. That's colonialism and shadow slavery here in America. So we'll get into that. But I love you coming and the fact that you wrote this book. And we're going to give you the majority of the time to talk about it, and where it stemmed from. And we even have videos that will complement what you're saying. So do us a favor, NAIMAH. Tell us why you wrote this book. That is important for us to know.
Well, I thank you for that question. You know, it really was a bit of a journey. It started out with my husband and I. We were doing a newspaper. We were publishing a newspaper, and we did a 6-part series. And it was based on, we were watching TV. We happened to meet or become acquainted with a young man named Fode Musa Suso, who happens to be a griot.
Okay.
And of course, that a griot is a person who memorizes
Mhm.
thousands of years of history. They can recite it and so forth. So we went to talk to him, and based on what he was telling us about African history, we did a series in our newspaper, the International Sun. But one of the things that struck us was when he talked about the culture and the way children are raised with love. And he happened to be the nephew of the griot who recited the story for Alex Haley and the miniseries Roots. So he was part of that family, and he explained how families, in Africa, you have a family industry. So you have the families that are the traders, the business people. You have the families that are the historians, the families that are the fishermen, the families that are the farmers. So whatever your family industry is, that's what you learn. So we know how things are here. You learn nothing from your family because everybody's hustling to get a job. So we were just fascinated with some details as to what we lost culturally. So in doing this 6-part series in our paper, we got so much response. We said, this needs to be a book. And that's how the book Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma, ended up being a book. It started out as a newspaper series based on the history that we learned from this young man from the Gambia, which is where Alex Haley's people are from, explaining the culture that we lost and the industry that we lost and the preparation for adulthood that we lost and the kind of communal child rearing that we lost. And it struck us how, because of what we don't know about raising children with love and in a community that protects them, and that families are responsible for teaching you and preparing you for adulthood so that you have a means of supporting yourself, because it's the family business, it's a family industry. And he explained it. His family, they're the historians. So every child, starting at age 4, they begin memorizing the history of the community, the history of the people, and they memorize it according to, first thing they learn how to play an instrument called a kora. It kind of looks like a banjo, but first they start playing the music, and then once they got the music down, then they start learning the histories, and they learn it to a beat. And I'm thinking, that's like our present day rappers. They have the ability to memorize these verses because they first get the rhythm, because our brain is wired to remember patterns of rhythm. So he said by the time he was 18 years old, he had memorized some 2,000 years worth of history in his mind, where he could just recite, just rap, and so-and-so begat so-and-so, and they went to so-and-so, and then they built a house at such and such, just memorizing all that history. And I'm thinking, how amazing are the minds of our children. We have this genetic ability, and it's being expressed today in the rap music, but it's the mental capacity that we have, that we inherited. And the fact that we're doing this to music is all just part of our genetic memory. So in the book Psychic Trauma, we talk about genetic memory and the fact that if we can tap into what we already have, then we can reverse all the attitudes and beliefs, the incorrect beliefs that our children are somehow defective or deficiency, or because they can't get a job, they're not smart enough, and all these things that have made us have such low self-esteem, because we don't know the history of what we were and what we came through, and now how we're being damaged because of the slave upbringing that we're experiencing.
That's very insightful.
Wow, say that again, Alicia.
I said that's very insightful, what you shared. When I was listening to you, right, it was so powerful. It made me think about how we were really more pure then, right, from a spiritual and a mental capacity. And so now we're so very clouded. But that was very insightful. Thank you for sharing.
I want to show a video when you talked about what our children innately have and how they innately think. I found some videos from like I think this was like 2010-ish, where these videos come from in this early part of my book, Beating Black Kids. And I can tell because in the background, you see my book and it doesn't say Beating Black Kids, it says Beat Black Kids, which was the first sort of iteration of the book. But I love what this young man said because there's a simplicity to their wisdom. And so I want to show it so that we can just really understand that they got something to offer. So let's check out these lovely babies.
What's your name?
Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. And Jimmy, do you feel like we should beat kids to discipline them?
No.
No? You don't think we should beat them? What should we do instead?
You should talk to them and see how they feel.
Interesting. Those are your own thoughts?
Kind of, but it's two sides of the story.
Okay, well, what's the other side?
The other side, the kids can come and talk to their parents about something too.
Nice.
Instead of the parents getting mad.
And the kids can come and talk to
adults.
Okay.
Adults can talk to kids. And that's how we beat them.
Okay.
They tell them how they feel.
Good. And how old are you?
11.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jimmy Jones. All right. Talk to you soon.
We love Jimmy Jones. Jimmy Jones said they could just talk to him, you know, and I have other videos that talk and speak to that. I want to show one other one of a young lady who, I think I showed it on another show, but she even taps into, they didn't have to beat me like a slave. So I just want to show that video as well, because out of the mouths of babes. Let's just check her out.
So what's your name, my dear?
Enzari.
Enzari, and how old are you?
13.
13? So what do you feel about all this beating stuff? Like, if I disagree with you, we disagree, should I just beat you?
No, I think that's a bad idea because I've met plenty of people who have been beaten and they're still not very respectful and stuff like that. And I don't think that it helps at all because I've got beat a couple of times, but I don't think that ever helped me learn anything.
Okay.
And once I would just talk to it and sat on the side and was like, this is what I know what to do, it stuck in my head more. And I was like, the reason that I thought that when I got beat that I thought that, oh, they're just doing this because they are mad at me and, you know, they don't have no other way to do it. And I'm just like, what's going on? And I'm like, couldn't they just talk to me as I'm a human being and I'm not a slave? It started to make me think about how the masters did in slavery to black people. And like, I'm a child, I'm a person, I'm still a human being. I'm not something like an animal or anything that you should beat me because I did something wrong. And that's not how I learned.
Wow. You're profound, young lady. Thank you.
Wow. Let me tell you, that young lady, she's a grown woman now. She was 13 then, but like I said, that was 2010. So like she's in her early 20s or mid 20s or so. But you heard what she said. She was like, you could just.
That's not how I learn.
She said, that's not how I learn.
Parents and teachers need to hear, because beating someone, that does not impress whatever lesson you wanted to impress on them. All it does is make them fear you and not trust you.
Absolutely.
And not be honest with you, because they know that if you don't like something they say or do, you're subject to inflict pain on them. So that's not how our children learn. That's not how anybody learns.
That's right. And I thought it was interesting that even at such a young age, she made the correlation. She said, I'm not a slave. You ain't got to beat me. You know, so even that young, the correlation to this slavery and being whipped like one. I love that she had that insight even at that time. We got a comment. Higher Learning Network. What up, Self Speaks? Says, wisdom from our children are worth listening to. We can always learn from the mouths of babes. You got that right. And then we got another topic, another subject comment. It says, we have continued the behavior of slave masters, and now we have the recipes. instructions, and it says guide to help us learn. It says Ashe. So thank you, Zelda, for that. Zelda Speaks. And that's right. We got a guide. We have a few of them. And your book is definitely a tool. When did you write this book? And what was your initial feedback from others when they saw this? Because with this title, you jump right in. Look, slavery, African American drama. You know, what was the feedback? Because sometimes we don't like to handle the truth. We don't like to look at that. So
you can't handle
the truth. So yeah, what was your first response to doing this?
When the book was published in 1994, that's when it came out. And it got quite a bit of response. As a matter of fact, we were the pioneers on the whole slavery trauma, the psychotrauma of slavery, that whole conversation. We were the pioneers in connecting slavery to present day emotional and psychological trauma and being able to cite some very specifics. And so we've seen more works on that theme. But in the beginning, you know, we did a lot of radio shows, a lot of speaking and talking about this. And one of the things that came out a lot when we talked about the slave beatings, parents would say things like, well, if you don't beat them, they won't respect you, or they won't obey you, or you know, you can't make them do what you want them to do. So that continues to be a point of contention, because people are not understanding beating someone is to break their spirit. That was the purpose in the slave era, to break a slave. And they had people who were called professional slave breakers, where if someone had a very strong spirit and was independent and you couldn't get them to be submissive, they would hire someone who was professional in terms of how they would beat you and beat you and beat you till you broke their spirit. And we saw what happened in the miniseries Roots. What did they do when Kunta Kinte would not accept his slave named Toby? They beat him and beat him and beat him till he finally said, "My name is Toby." That is what they did. So when you beat someone, the intention is to break their spirit. So how can we have children who rise to greatness if we're breaking them? That's what we're doing when we're beating them. That's what happens. And like the children we're talking about, how does it make you feel when you're beaten? It makes you feel disrespected, dishonored, and it makes you feel like you're not loved. Yeah. And love is what shapes character. So even as we researched much of African culture and the way things are done, as we have said often, it takes a village to raise a child. There's a reason for that saying, because the village, the people, the elders, they demonstrate what behavior looks like. They demonstrate what respects look like by the way they treat each other, speaking to each other with respect and kindness and reverence for elders and listening with patience to elders and being able to share, and all of those principles that we want our children to learn. You don't beat it into them. You have to demonstrate that. So you can't be off being drunken and ignorant and fighting and then get upset if your children are fighting and cussing and acting like they have no regard for anybody else's life. They're learning by observing what we do.
Sure.
And I think you bring up, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, good.
I think you bring up an interesting point, NAIMAH, about the intrinsics of that, wanting to break the spirit. I remember when you said that, right? It took me back to my childhood when I got beat, right?
Every child remembers.
Yeah, my mom was like,
"We all remember.
If I don't break you, I'm gonna have to, because your spirit's too damn strong." And I remember going like, "What?" And so yeah, you just really took me back to that, but thinking about the impacts of that and how it transitions actually into adulthood.
Yes.
You know, you carry that and then you work in these environments or you engage with people.
Yeah.
And often, right, we have a feeling of something is looming inside of us because we encounter those same experiences as adults. So that's very interesting. That's a good tie-in.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And look at that. I'm so happy that you're sane, because even just talking about this topic can be triggering. It could be triggering. And what I want us to do in the show, guys, I'm not a person that's going, for lack of a better word, foot tiptoe around a topic. And I want us to take responsibility for the effect that we're creating. We have to. Like you've said in several of the shows, Alicia, stop normalizing pain. We need to stop doing that, right? And we do need to look at, I don't want to hear, well, I just tap them. I don't really spank. I don't abuse them. The body is experiencing pain regardless. Trauma. And the body doesn't know the difference between your intention to cause whatever level of harm you think you're causing to try to get respect. But respect is not what's gotten from that. There is fear that's gotten from it. Now, there's a difference between respect and reverence. When you revere someone, that's where you honor them, you admire them. When you beat people, I don't care who you are, they are not honoring you and revering you. They are trying to. One brother said, oh, I turned out fine because my mother beat me. I said, yeah, you say that now, but what was you saying when your mother was doing it? He said, oh, I wanted to kill her.
Exactly. It's resentment. And
anger is still inside of them.
Yeah.
And that manifests in the relationships that we have. Absolutely. So throughout the book, we deal with various topics from our marriages, why they're not working, our economics, all of these things that stem from the broken spirit that we experienced in the slave times and in that slave era, and all of the destruction of our self-esteem, our confidence, our sense of self-worth. All of those things that were destroyed are things that we need in order to rebuild ourselves, rebuild our families and communities. We can't build a community if we can't even stay in a relationship, and we can't stay in a relationship if we're harboring all of this anger and resentment because of how we were raised, how we were beaten, how we were talked to and talked down to and verbally abused and made to feel ugly and stupid and lazy and all those ugly things that our parents said to us, because that's what they thought you're supposed to do to break a child's spirit.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It's deep. Look, one of the things my spiritual mom said, my spiritual mother, her name was Lauren Cresslove. She actually, you see that middle name Cress? So she was the older sister of Frances Cress Welsing. And they live right here in Chicago. And one of the things she said was that there's never been a moment's pause for healing when it comes to slavery. There ain't been not one moment's pause since slavery. So we never had any time to heal, which is the point. It's just generation. And we'll show a commercial of yours shortly that I love when you say we come from parents that were broken.
Yes.
Who were parents of parents that were broken. Like, it is generations of brokenness when it comes to rearing our children with love, yo. And to the point where we don't really know how to articulate love. I think that's a real issue. We don't know how to put forth affection that's not sexual. Intimacy that's filled with compassion. Like we get real skewed in some of those areas, and we mistake it for things. But it's because we equate pain and love come together. People that love you hit you. People that love you harm you. People that love you molest you. People that love you, like it's a real ugly, murky environment, when we're getting to what we should do versus what we've been doing, So psychic trauma came out. That's 94 is dope. That's That's some time now that it's been out.
Some time, yes.
Yeah, but
of course, we've had it in schools and colleges. We've had a chance to, and I love being able to talk to classrooms at everything from grammar school to high school to colleges. Because we wrote it at like a 6th grade reading level.
Okay.
Because we wanted to introduce it to younger children in order to change the way the next generation is raised. And we've talked about even how they're experiencing the results of the slave experience for us. One thing that happened even with our relationships, and many of us know about the slave stud, the stud farms, where they had young men go out and impregnate women. Sometimes you could hire out a stud from another farm, and their whole job was to impregnate the women. Because of course, if you have a woman who gets pregnant, then you don't have to buy another slave. You just have one right there on your plantation. Cheap way to increase your population of slaves. So the idea of that even was to destroy the idea of reverence for the sex act, for the act of intimacy, and make us see each other as just things and a good time, and just a slave breeder. And so the studs, they had high status. Oh yeah, you had 10 children on this plantation and 5 on that plantation. So just removing the sanctity of marriage, knowing that not only could the slave owner decide to have sex with some man's wife, even if he tried to marry and have some kind of family, some kind of dignity, even in that environment, that could be violated at any time. They could even hire someone else to impregnate a woman who did not want to be impregnated. So even the sanctity of our bodies and how we learn to feel like we didn't have control over the sanctity of our bodies. So, explaining these things to a group of 6th grade girls, it helps them understand how they're being groomed not to respect their bodies, how they're being groomed to accept mistreatment and disrespect, and how that respect has to be inside of them so that they raise their standards of what they will expect and will allow, because their counterparts, the young men, they're also being conditioned with that same slave stud kind of mentality, because many of them grew up in families where the fathers were not there to give them the proper image of what a responsible father looks like.
Promoting breeders.
That a man who's a man goes out and has a bunch of sex with a lot of women.
And broken
homes. I'm about to say, this sounds very familiar. Having a bunch of children, different places. But this is the thing that's really kind of hitting me right now. When we look at the title of your book, we're sitting here with Alicia, who deals with trauma. And she deals with trauma with ex-sex offenders.
So they're never actually.
Do we see the correlation? Go ahead, Alicia.
So once a sex offender, right? Always a sex offender. That's the title given for the rest of their life, right? They have to go and register. And NAIMAH, you're touching on so many things that are bringing so many things forth. Today we're in modern day breeding. We see it. The way that we treat ourselves, the way that we treat each other, the disconnect, the pain and the hurt, the guilt, the shame. It is a vicious cycle ongoing. And I just want to know, when can I get that book so I can work with the group on that?
NAIMAHLatif.com, you get it today.
They go to that website at the bottom, baby, NAIMAHLatif.com.
Because everything you're touching on is so prevalent today, and it's carried through. It's so deeply rooted, and it's carried through so deep generationally. So I'm really excited about reading your book and using it as a platform to work with the participants that I service every day.
Nice.
We've been in the prisons with the book, and you talk about people light bulb coming on when we started to talk about these things, because they saw how they had been basically groomed to end up in prison. And even when we speak about the prison system, that is just a continuation of slavery. It's
modern day, yeah.
And it was by design.
Absolutely.
Because that is the free labor force that this nation continues to use.
Correct.
See?
And exploit y'all.
Look, with this hot and heavy, baby, we can come on. We can keep it going with this topic. We got to take a quick commercial break. But when we come back, we're going to talk more with both Alicia Perry and NAIMAH LATIF about this trauma that has spilled over into our lives and made it so that we behave inappropriately with each other. But let's go to a quick commercial break. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back after these messages. Peace. Great day. It's your girl ASADAH here to introduce a new female solution show called ASADAH Says. That's right. Every month we're going to talk about everything I am, from cryptocurrency and financial security to good health and parenting strategies. Come on and talk with me every Tuesday morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And let's do that thing the way ASADAH says it should be done. See you then. Peace, right here on the Female Solution.
When you see Black children misbehaving in public, being loud, disrespectful, and destructive, do you think to yourself, what they need is a good beating? That's what's wrong with these parents. They don't know how to discipline their children. Were you disciplined in that way? And did your parents also call you stupid, ignorant, and lazy? That's the way you break a slave. You terrorize them with constant fear of painful punishment. We were broken by parents who were broken, by parents who were broken. It's time to end the cycle of brokenness and bring healing to ourselves and our communities by using knowledge, respect, and love. We'll show you how. I'm NAIMAH LATIF. Get the book Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma. On sale now. Go to www.naimalatif.com.
I love it. Thank you so much. Yo, this, like I said, is the last day of our Love Don't Hurt series. I want to just take a minute again to bring in that song Breathe, because that was made by a brother named Anthony Turner. They call him Coach T, but just breathe. I need us to take a minute to do it like it's a real thing. Look. All right, y'all, let's get it. We're going to breathe. I want to also say, we have some great supporters of this Love Don't Hurt movement. And I want to thank you because they're doing things and bringing out this energy. Check it out. That's right. I love the brothers. I love the children that are out there rocking Love Don't Hurt. We got people buying the candles, the shirts, all of the things, sweatshirts. I love it. If you don't know, now you know. You could be a part of it too. Look at my girl Vanessa rocking and rolling. Look at my girl. That's right. I go ahead, jog. So basically, Love Don't Hurt is a movement, y'all. It is what we're doing to make the statement clear that love does not hurt. We have to actually change our behavior patterns, y'all. We think that this is normal and it's not. So I want to bring back the sisters who are rocking this topic with me today. I got to bring back Alicia Perry, who, yes, indeed, professionally is helping people work through this trauma. And of course, bring back NAIMAH LATIF, who wrote the book that you need to get. Let me put this website at the bottom. That's NAIMAHLATIF.com, right, NAIMAH?
Yes, NAIMAHLATIF.com.
I found it already. I'm ordering it today.
Hey, all right. Hey!
Beautiful. That's what we want. And if y'all don't know, this is the book here, Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma, and why it relates to what we're talking about, guys, is because, my book is about beating children. My book is about, my concept is about love not hurting, but it stems from somewhere. It comes from this place, this ugly place called slavery. And, you know, I don't have the images. If I could try to get it, I'll bring it up. But here's the issue. We didn't used to parent like this. I actually have images. I did a workshop where you looked at traditional African images of parenting, like in statues and wall drawings. And you know what you saw? Babies on backs, babies being held in the bosom, breastfed. You could look at Tutankhamun and you can look at the child standing next to the pharaoh, next to his leg with his pharaoh gear on. Like, it's different. You do not see violence in our traditional African art. And you see, I did it in a workshop. I put those images up and I asked the audience, what do you see? What kind of parenting are you looking at? And they said things like nurturing, love, da da da. Right. That's what it was. But when you incorporated colonialism and slavery, where we were treated like property, over-sexualized, raped, all kinds of heinous acts, now you're talking about, like I said, no pause between that. And there's a trauma in how we actually are self-inflicted. I don't even think we bring harm to others as much as we bring to ourselves. And so what feedback have you gotten, NAIMAH, about the content of the book and how it's impacted others? And I'm loving, then I want to hear from Alicia how you plan on utilizing this with your clients. So NAIMAH, feedback, how people have maybe utilized it, and then Alicia, how you getting ready to use the book.
A lot of people.
Go ahead, NAIMAH.
A lot of people, they recognize throughout the book incidences that affected their lives. When we talk about the whole parenting thing and the chapter child rearing, the making of a slave, we talk about, even like you mentioned, the practice of holding your child and carrying your child with you. Now, I did that with my child, and the kind of feedback I got from people, yeah, that's so primitive. See, brainwashed. This is when we see African women and their child is close to their bodies, carried with them all the time. The child's not crying. The child is calm. The child is secure. And this is how we parented from the beginning. One of the reasons why we put that face of that child, my husband had a friend who was a photographer, and he had this picture of a mother and child, and we looked at the child's face, and that child's face was like, and the child couldn't have been more than 2 years old, even if that, it was a toddler, but it already had that look of stress. And that's what happens. Our children are stressed very early in life because of the way they are not nurtured, because of the way we've been taught to put them away someplace. And we've been taught that there's something wrong about breastfeeding. And you know, if you had a child, you know how much they push that formula. As soon as your child's born, they try to tell you, oh, it's healthier if they have formula. No, it isn't. It's healthier if they're breastfed. It's not just the breast milk. It's the whole bonding that has to happen for their emotional security, for their physical health. We start out making our children feel insecure, letting them cry and cry and cry. And people say, oh, your child's gonna be spoiled. Even that comes from slavery. What were we taught was that you got to get, as slave mothers, the idea was you have to get your child used to non-love because they're not going to get any. So you have to make them hard. You have to make them tough. So you don't give them any affection. How many of us still have mothers who don't give any affection? And how has that affected us? So when we talk about this, especially when we talk about this in the prisons, we had, matter of fact, my husband, he was at the men's prison. He talked about how some of them prisoners were crying when he talked about that whole absence of love and your parents trying to keep you tough so they don't give you any affection. And, you know, the cry, tell you, shut up. You know, I mean, we were always made to feel like we can't even show when we're hurt because that came out of slavery. Once again, look, you're not going to get any love. You're not going to get any affection. You're not going to get any comfort. So stop showing any emotion. Just suck it up. And then mothers learn, slave mothers learn not to be loving and affectionate and comforting to their children because they thought, this is how I toughen up my child so they can survive this slave experience. That was the belief. So that's why we've got these generations of brokenness and women who don't know that they should be hugging their children and carrying their children until their children are weaned and, you know, strapped to them and talking to them, comforting them. They don't know this because they've been raised by parents who were raised by parents who were raised by parents who were enslaved. And they thought that the way you toughen up a child is to show them no love.
Wow.
So
clearly,
this is what
these are some of the images I was talking about. See what you're saying? These, you can't really see them fully, but on my Facebook page, I was like, I gotta find them. You just got all these ancient, traditional African images of parenting, and they're loving those children. They're holding those children. They have them on their back. They have them to their bosom. And they're different cultures, Nigeria, Egypt. Like, it's not even one type of group. It's all of us, you know. And so we really got to be clear on who we are and how we roll, for real, and not based on this experience that we had. Go ahead, Alicia. I want to hear how you plan on utilizing this book with your clients that clearly have been traumatized. But look at the similarities of what we're saying. How do you plan on using it? Because we know you getting the book today.
Just from listening to NAIMAH, I certainly want to go back into trauma because it's a conversation that I'm always having with the population that I service. And it's very difficult for men to acknowledge that they have these deep intrinsic wounds from mama. We spoke about that during the first show, I think, in utero, right? If mom's experience was negative, of course your experience is going to be negative. We assimilate, right, based on what people say, theorists, right? When the baby is born and they come into the world, then they experience the environment. But it actually takes place before then. So I'm going to use the book to work with helping the population and even some of my individual clients that I service, helping them understand the importance of the trauma that they experience and the bag that they bring to their relationships, friendships, daily workplaces and spaces, and just how we interact with each other overall, because all of us are carrying so much unhealthy and unhealed spaces within us that we need to start lending a voice and normalizing again the conversations of these particular things. And what's interesting for me too, right? I received both. Most of my rearing was rooted in love from both of my parents. And then there was a switch, right? And I believe the switch came because I was this real sweet child and was going to school in kindergarten, getting beat up a lot by a kid. And I was told, like, hey, you better fight because if you don't, you're going to be weak, right? And innately, though, I always felt like it was just so wrong to be that way. And even as an adult, I find myself taking the high road so I don't hurt other people's feelings. Like my motto is, I can take it because I'm built for it, right? But understanding that I'm built for it at this time because I've been in therapy since I was a child. I've been equipped to manage, but understand how people operate, where they come from. And so this book is really not going to just help me, right, better improve my engagement with others, but also it's going to be a tool that I use to help look at like systemic things that have possibly occurred with me, because we can always revisit what we experienced in an instance, right? But helping others find their voices, because our men are so afraid to say that my mama messed me up or she caused harm. They're so afraid of that conversation because in their minds, that's my mama and she just did what she knew. But she could have sought other opportunities to learn, right? But yeah, so that book is, man, I'm so thankful to meet you and gain this resource, right? Yeah.
Nice. I want to show one more video that exemplifies what we're saying and how prevalent it is in our culture. Because when I did these, I'm telling you, these videos are old. You can tell by the technology, but it shows you that this topic isn't, even though it's old, it ain't old. like
relevant.
It's still relative.
Right.
Why are we still going through this, right? So let's just watch this real quick and get an idea of what's happening out there, and then give some commentary.
Now say that story again. What happened?
My father, when he was a little boy, he broke a vase. A vase. Children do that every day. But his grandfather was an ex-slave. So he took him out in the field, strung him up on a tree upside down, buck naked, and whipped him with the whip. Because he thought that was the normal way to discipline a child, because that was the way he was disciplined as a slave.
Wow.
South Carolina story.
What did it say?
Wow.
People perish for lack of knowledge.
Right.
My grandparents used to beat her children in love, she said it, and make them say thank you for a beating, because it's better you thank me now than later on to grow up in life and do something wrong. So you had to say to her, I thank you for teaching me right. I don't understand that one.
No, that's psycho.
But you do love it. And I'm not going to go against it, but we perish for lack of knowledge.
Wow.
You don't understand. And it's just, I don't care what anybody say. And it needs to be taught in our houses of worship.
You see what I'm saying?
I heard you say that psycho. I was thinking that same thing. I said, did she just say that now? Or did she say it on the clip? Because I was thinking the same thing.
Goodness.
But that is the undercurrent of the dysfunction in our relationships. Memories like that, where you know your soul knows you were violated and you're supposed to be grateful. The hardest thing for us today is to admit that our parents abused us, because we love our parents. So you need to understand forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean that I'm condoning what you did. Forgiveness means I understand that you were ignorant when you did it. You didn't know any better. And so and also acknowledge the ignorance, then we can forgive from that. Because they damaged me, I now know not to do this to my children. That's how you make that experience have benefit for you. You know not to repeat it.
Right.
So many parents today, our age and younger, are struggling with the fact that they don't know how to rear their children. And they talk about discipline, and they use the word discipline, believing that that means a beating. I have friends now, that slave beating that was described, and strip you and hang you up and beat you with a whip. They experienced that in our time. People are doing that to their children, thinking that's and what they call it, a good beating. So,
and the resentment from that, NAIMAH.
It's beyond
the resentment that our young children are facing. And then they go out in these mob crowds, right? It's to act out the anger.
That anger came from somewhere.
Yeah, they're acting out.
Yes, they're acting out. And see, we have so many young mothers who are frustrated because what's that cycle? They don't have help. They're trying to make their children behave. That's the only way they know. But in a healthy community, a mother would not be raising that child by herself. I have a friend who he married a sister from Ghana, and he went to visit the family, and he was describing to me, he was really fascinated because they just had their first child. He noticed that whenever that child cried, another mother from the community would come and grab them. Oh, let me hold the baby. So she never had to deal with the stress of, oh, my child might cry, my child's crying. What am I gonna? Oh, I'm tired, my child. She had all these mothers. They would help. They would hold the baby, rock the baby, change the baby, and she can go on and enjoy herself and have fun and talk and be with her family and not worry about it, because the community helps raise the children. That's where the child rearing comes from. That's why it takes a village to raise a child. You don't have a single mother that's stressed out after working 2 jobs and she got to come home and beat her children because they went outside. And she told him to stay inside because she's trying to keep them safe, and so she's got all this stress, and the only way she knows how to make sure they behave is to beat them. They don't have that. In a healthy community, you have elders who are showing love and protection and comfort, and so a child grows up in that environment. They don't need a beating in order to be disciplined. They need love, and they need adults to be loving to them and to each other to demonstrate what it looks like.
And what we see now, based on what you're speaking about, is an influx of grandparents trying to undo that damage.
Whoa.
Even though they damaged their children had children, right? And now the grandparents are stepping in to rear these children, but they're doing it improperly. They're giving them the things, right? And then the child is so accustomed to the things, they don't know how to experience the love that we discussed earlier. They don't know what the love feels like. They lack trust. Because they don't know if those things are going to be taken away or if I'm going to be beaten. So there's a mixture of emotions mentally. The brain never relaxes again because it's always firing off, because I don't know if I have to fight or, flee, right? The environment. And so you bring up some good points about what we see in today's world. My history is I started off in DCFS. And I worked there for 20 years. Oh my God. When I tell you the things that I experienced working with the families there, and we need to go back to community. We need to establish covenants, but because cyclically the trust has been broken from generation to generation. And it's not just the trust, but the spirits of our communities. Our leaders, people are so broken. We really need to subscribe to healing in a way from group settings if we can't afford individual therapy. But we need to create spaces where we can go and have these difficult conversations and have people just like us, right, in person having these discussions.
Absolutely.
Man, look, y'all, it's like this. I really want us to leave today. I can't even believe we got like maybe 4-5 minutes. But here's the deal. Audience, you're hearing where the problem stemmed from, but what I've gotten a lot of in life is, so what do I do now? People want to know, so how do I make this better? And I want us to look at, as a people, as you viewing, think of your own actions, right? Some people, I've had some adults say, well, my children are grown now, so what do I do? But you can always go to them and have a conversation about what you knew and what you knew then, what you know now, and how that differs. And you can apologize. There can be some reckoning because people are holding those memories. They still holding them. And if you never reckoned with it, you never took responsibility for creating that pain, you need to take responsibility for it. And you need to go ahead. And it's not about being accused. It's about being overstood. You understand? I need us to be civilized with each other. I think that's what it's really about. How civilized are you with your children? And do you even concentrate on bringing them pleasure versus bringing them pain? I know that a lot of adults boast about bringing their children pain and how they yelled at them and hit them and spanked them and gave them something good and threatened them. Yeah, but can you even do a list of how you've worked to please your child? What kind of things have you done to build them? And I've done this before. I'm going to bring it up again just in this setting, the parental code of ethics that I wrote. I'm going to bring that up just so that we can take a look at some of the things, and let me move us over so we can really see it. And I want to make it big because I want to just read a few of those things. Because this is the solution. So we got, I'm going to go to this line. My child will learn respect firsthand from the respect I give to him or her.
Yes. Model the behavior.
Model it, right? And then this is one that I say in this video. I will only seek excellence in my child if I am excellent myself.
Absolutely.
Right? Be excellent yourself, right? And then there's this one that says, when I get frustrated with my child's behavior, I will create better solutions for disciplining than hitting. Because here's the deal, y'all. Discipline comes from the Latin root disciplina. Disciplina means to teach. So how can you teach a thing if they're doing something wrong? If they were a toddler and reached for the plug, they're only doing that because they see you go to the plug every day and it's their height. So they want to touch it. Teach them. Go ahead, NAIMAH.
I'll say one thing here. We project intentions on children that they don't even have. Oh, they're defying me. They're disrespecting me. They're trying to do bad. And this child has a thought, like you say, they're reaching for the plug and the electric socket because they're imitating something that we're doing. They don't have all these devious plans, and so we're punishing them for intentions that are in our minds that we're projecting onto them. They don't even have, and we keep doing this instead of asking them, "Why did you do that? What were you thinking?" Not what were you thinking, but what were you thinking? What were you trying to do? Seeking to understand their thought processes as opposed to punishing them for an intention that we're projecting onto them. And so when people say things like, well, what should I do? That talking to them doesn't do any good. Well, you're talking to them, but you're not listening to them.
And turn away from barbaric behaviors.
Yes.
And understanding what you do, children emulate because it's not to do as I say, right? They're going to also do as they see.
All the time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
And because they do not have these devious thoughts and plans and, they just want to disobey. You don't know what it is they want if you don't listen to them and ask them and listen to them. And then once they explain to you, then you can explain why what that thought that they had was harmful and the harm it could cause other people.
Absolutely.
Once they owning you made a wrong move also in the presence of them.
Yes. And they are emulating that, because I always say to people, you may have an issue with gang violence and the violence and the senseless killings, but you actually taught them violence first.
Absolutely.
In the house. You showed them that when you don't like something or when you can't express yourself, you hit. You use violence, you pick up things. So we taught that behavior in the home first. And that's what I want us to be responsible for. Be responsible for the effect you're having on the world. Be responsible for the memory you're leaving in our children. And so, NAIMAH, I just want to say, in this last minute, give us some words of wisdom. And you guys see her website at the bottom, NAIMAHLATIF.com. Get the book, baby. Get that book, the slavery, author of Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma. Go ahead, Mama. I ain't taking up your time. Give us some words of wisdom.
I got a question, NAIMAH, about the book, because I see the book is audio and then paperback. So the paperback one, I can just order it versus the download.
You can get that paperback, and
I'm hands-on. Let me take it with me. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And this is not a book to belabor. Oh, white folks treated us wrong. They did us bad. It's not about that. It's about how do we heal? How do we change direction? How do we create a new generation that is not affected by the enslavement experience? So in every chapter, there are activities that you can do that will help you undo the damage in yourself. It's a self-help, self-healing book. And when we can acknowledge that we made mistakes, then we can change our behavior. But we need to acknowledge that we made mistakes. Don't keep holding on to that old slave system of beating your children just because you were beat or because you have not developed the patience to listen to a 2-year-old express their displeasure for eating broccoli. You need to be able to listen and respect them as a human being, because that is what we're doing. We can only produce human beings who respect other human beings when they are respected as a human being, when they are treated as if their feelings matter, when they are treated as if their thoughts matter, when they are guided by wisdom as opposed to being lectured to without giving them understanding of how their behavior affects the whole, because that is how African society is. It's about the collective, what's good for the community. This is what we're teaching our children when we show them respect, and we also expose them to others who are emulating and demonstrating what respect looks like. So get the book, learn the systems, learn the methods of proper child rearing so that our children will be free people who are powerful.
Wow, look. And there you have it. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here on this beautiful show, talking about how love doesn't hurt and how we can do better. You guys go cop the book at NAIMAHLATIF.com. There's the website. And I just want to say, hey, thank you for tuning in to ASADAH Says. Join us next month where we're going to be focusing on happy Black marriages do live. Peace, guys. See y'all next Tuesday. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for coming, ladies.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Pleasure.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, ngiyabonga. Senegal, jaref. Kenya, asante. Israel, toda. Pakistan, shukriya. Afghanistan, tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.